medical costs with Sagicor Pro Shield. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 a.m. and it's now time for the Morning Watch. Today, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Bashco Trading Limited, the store that gives you more.
Bashco goes fashion go on decor with the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. October 31st and November 1st, get up to 50% off. New finds, lower prices, big savings across all Bashco locations. Fashion go on decor with Bashco. With the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. Shop, save, and earn. October 31st and November 1st. Follow Bashco on all socials at Bashco Jamaica. Bashco, where style meets savings.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001, and if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first and second watches today, war in our backyard? That's the question. War in our backyard? Justified or just to fire? That's another question. And where is CARICOM? The third question. For our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on the conflict now playing out in Caribbean waters? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, also on WhatsApp, 876-997-3125, using the hashtag The Morning Watch. I'll read that number again, 876-997-3125, using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your response later on the program, but first, here's our quote.
All right, today's I quote says, "Integrity that bends with convenience is no integrity at all." This one is attributed to Tony Dungy, I believe, or Dungy, I believe.
You know, I was wondering about the pronunciation of the surname.
One of them.
And when I saw the I quote, "integrity that bends with convenience," I began to think about a rocket going to a target and bending as it travels through the air. I wasn't thinking of the I quote, to be quite frank.
Ah, got you.
Integrity that bends with convenience is no integrity at all. Well, if it bends, it's not really something of integrity, is it?
Not at all.
Interesting. Good morning, Jokal.
Good morning.
Well, the first watch will be back after this break. Stay tuned.
Fresh and 24/7, you see. New down Eaton, a softener with a scent for cozy eyes. New down Eaton, fresh and 24/7 with a scent that lasts. New down Eaton, find it in your favorite store.
Bashco goes fashion go on decor with the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. October 31st and November 1st, get up to 50% off. New finds, lower prices, big savings across all Bashco locations. Fashion go on decor with Bashco. With the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. Shop, save, and earn. October 31st and November 1st. Follow Bashco on all socials at Bashco Jamaica. Bashco, where style meets savings.
When we started this company, we were focused on helping people find their way. And when it comes to critical illness and life insurance, we're all about helping people find a way to live more. Like our JN Life Aid that covers your first diagnosis and is there in case of a second occurrence. That's how much we're invested in you living your life. Welcome to the art of living insurance from JN Life.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm Stokeley Marshall. Tensions are heating up in the Caribbean Sea, or they have already heated up. In recent weeks, U.S. military operations near Venezuela sparked alarm across the region. Washington says it's targeting drug trafficking networks, but Caracas calls it aggression and a violation of sovereignty. After deadly strikes on vessels and confrontations between U.S. warships and Venezuelan forces, with warships, aircraft, and accusations flying, many are asking, is this a new front of conflict unfolding in our backyard? Well, in the yard, period. Could be even on the front lawn. And where does CARICOM stand as global powers flex muscles in Caribbean waters? We have as our guest today for both watches. We'll be looking at this whole matter in both watches today, first and second. Ambassador Curtis Ward, attorney at law, international consultant, ambassador and permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations, retired. We also have Pastor Everett Edwards, pastor, Church of the Open Bible, Twickenham Park. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Starting with you, Ambassador Curtis Ward, if you could give us a brief overview of the conflict and why is it considered to be in our backyard. I would probably even add the front lawn. Ambassador Ward, if you can assist us.
Good morning to you and your listeners. I'm pleased to hear you say our front yard, because once you're in the Caribbean Sea, you're no longer in our backyard. Now, this is a very serious time for us as Caribbean countries, because the collateral damage could be severe, both economic and putting Caribbean citizens in the crossfire. It's a very dangerous situation. This has been brewing now and building up for a while. It didn't just start with this new administration. Those of you who have been following the policies of the first Trump administration, you will have remembered that in 2019 into 2020, there was a concerted effort to have regime change in Venezuela by replacing Nicolas Maduro with Juan Guaido, who was actually installed outside of Venezuela, of course, as interim president and recognized by the United States and several other countries. Fast forward, new administration, and there was unfinished business in Venezuela. And so we've seen an increase in sanctions against Venezuela to put pressure on Maduro, but always in the back of the mind, if not in the front of the actions, is regime change. The sanctions didn't do much. The next thing we saw was the US government putting a bounty of $50 million for leading to the arrest of Maduro, which means removing him from office and out of Venezuela. $50 million. Now, one of the reasons why there has been very little success up to this point is that the Venezuelan military has been faithful to Maduro. And that means in order to get Maduro out, you have the military. And so the $50 million was an inducement. That doesn't seem to work. So now we saw the change where the actions are now allegedly aimed at interdicting drugs by blowing up small craft in the waterways between Venezuela and Trinidad. So far, I believe we have 6 or 7 such craft being blown up, and almost 30 lives have been lost. There have been allegations that they are drug traffickers. No proof has been provided. So there's a lot of concerns, and now there's massive military buildup in the Caribbean. We have learned of 10,000 or more troops in Puerto Rico. We've learned of military aircraft in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and we also know about the deployment of a nuclear sub in the vicinity of Venezuela, and a U.S. warship and a flotilla of warships heading in that area. We also know, according to the President of the United States, that he has authorized CIA covert operations in Venezuela. Now, what does that really mean? It means the CIA is currently setting up strategic alignments in Venezuela with those who may oppose Maduro and want to see him go. We also see them trying to infiltrate the military, and, if necessary, to participate in removal of Maduro forcefully. So this is where we are right now. There's a lot of tensions. I believe you mentioned, where's CARICOM on this? CARICOM seemingly, grudgingly, put out a statement which was very weak, which did not identify some of the major issues, such as the extrajudicial killing and the lack of evidence to support any killing whatsoever, whether justified or unjustified. So let me stop right there, and maybe we can fill this out some more as we have this discussion.
Comments so far. Pastor Errol Edwards, you have heard Ambassador Curtis Ward, and you, of course, would have your own thoughts on the matter. Pastor Edwards.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning to your listeners. Good morning, Ambassador Ward. I see what is happening, what we hear regarding the U.S. military buildup around Trinidad and Venezuela in a wider context. Yes, we know that there is no love lost between the Americans and the current Venezuelan government, but it happens in the context of what we see and hear again in on the wider global stage. Mr. Trump has been boasting
Pastor
on.
Edwards, only because of time, can you hold that thought for a second? We're heading to a break. Do not lose your train of thought, sir. You're talking about the wider context, and you mentioned President Donald Trump. Listeners, please stay with us. Very important conversation this morning on the Morning Watch. We'll be right back after this break.
Time on Love 101 is now 7:15 a.m. The NHT will be accepting applications from pensioners for smart energy grants up to $1.5 million with the NHT Smart Energy Grant. Pensioners can install solar panels at home and save on electricity. Applications are being accepted via the NHD website or in person at NHD branch offices from Friday, October 24 to Wednesday, October 29. For more information on the Smart Energy Grant, visit the NHD website or any NHD branch.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and the first and the second watches today will be on the topic war in our background. War in our background. Backyard, rather. Backyard. Justified or just to fire? Justified or just to fire? And where is CARICOM? Our guests are Ambassador Curtis Ward and Pastor Everell Edwards. Pastor Everell Edwards, just before the break, you had started to make some comments about the wider context. You mentioned President Trump. Continue.
Yes, he was very clear in his position as to, or his opinion as to, how technologically superior the U.S. is militarily to anybody, any rival in the world. And then we know that there is ongoing conflict between Venezuela and Guyana over one of the largest oil finds in recent times, developed by a large U.S. multinational. So the whole business of...
Do you regard this as the United States reacting to the allegations of how Venezuela treated with...
It's just a confluence of events,
Okay.
and a opportune time to flex some muscle and test some weaponry. And
by the way, Pastor, I hold no brief for either country, whether the United States of America or Venezuela. I am concerned, as anyone else is, because if you're firing weapons, in the Caribbean, that is cause for the concern of all persons in the Caribbean, all, regardless.
Well,
having said that, continue, Pastor.
Yes, indeed. And Caribbean people would be justifiably concerned about that. But the fact of the matter is, where there is power and the means to advance one's own interest, that is going to be the priority, main objective of whoever the power broker is. So we, as CARICOM or CARICOM countries, talking about preserving a zone of peace doesn't figure highly on American calculations. The person who has much is going to pursue more, and the people who are less able are going to lose some of what they have already had. That is the context within which I'm saying this.
If I could interject and ask you this, the term narco-terrorism has been used to describe the relevant persons from Venezuela in terms of the current conflict between the U.S. and that country.
And I would respond to that by saying, I would respond to that by saying, where's the evidence? We hear intelligence-driven, but again, what evidence has?
Well, they could say that if it's intelligence-driven, they could probably say they can't disclose everything because it is intelligence-driven.
Yeah, they could quite so, but again, there is no trial, and we believe in due process.
Yeah.
I think declaring a war against drug traffickers helps to bypass any constraints you would have about court and presenting evidence and what have you. The other concern I have...
you may be aware that in the United States of America, it is Congress, I believe, that declares war. But I haven't seen as yet Congress has made any such declaration.
They have not.
Or they
They
have
have
to,
not.
yes, Congress has to give its nod. So,
Yeah.
in the circumstances, how does all of this strike you, sir?
Well, you have a provision
Yes.
where the president can engage armed forces and in military conflict for 60 days before needing congressional approval.
Yes.
That we understand to be still in force. But the fact of the matter is, even outside of having to resort to direct military engagement, CARICOM and the US have the whole a framework for interdicting drugs and fighting that war with the shipwright agreement. And even the shipwright agreement, imperfect as it is, does not require military activity on the scale that we are seeing, or at least the deployment on the scale we're seeing here now. So obviously, there is a lot of muscle flexing, um, and little regard for the Caribbean interest in the matter.
Understood, understood. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Pastor Edwards. Ambassador Ward, if you were, for example, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, which is essentially right there in the midst of all of this, in terms of the proximity to Venezuela, etc., how would you likely be wanting to respond at this time in terms of this issue?
Before I answer that, might I just comment a bit on what the good Reverend just said?
Reverend. Sure, go ahead.
Because while the president can respond to an emergency or imminent threat against the United States by using military force, once military force is engaged
Yeah.
in any form, it is mandatory under the War Powers Act for the president to immediately brief the Congress on the action taken and why it was taken and why the War Powers Act had to be invoked.
Yeah.
None of that has occurred. And we're now 3 weeks into the blowing up of small craft in the Caribbean. Now,
Yes.
we have to go back to the whole idea of whether drug trafficking groups are terrorist organizations. Because for the first time in the history of the United States, and I emphasize for the first time in the history of the United States, in February of this year, the State Department designated 8 drug trafficking groups as terrorists. And as we know, the history of the United States, in particular, since 9/11, have been using drones to go after terrorists and terrorist groups. So by designating the drug traffickers, including Tren de Aragua in Venezuela, as a terrorist group, the president is using that as justification to use bombs, missiles, drones, whatever form, to wipe out small craft in the Caribbean. That is unprecedented. So we should be careful how we use the terminology being used by the United States to justify certain actions.
Well,
Now,
Ambassador Ward, not to disagree with you, but the United States of America could say that fact that they could say that the fact that something is unprecedented doesn't make it wrong.
well, it's unprecedented in terms of morality. Who is a terrorist? Does Trend Aragua or any other drug trafficking group meet the international definition or the domestic definition here in the United States of what is a terrorist group? But but a foreign terrorist organization draws certain responses from the United States. So once designated, it triggers some other actions that are automatic and those that are taken by the president. Now, you mentioned earlier the situation with Trinidad. It was very disconcerting to me that CARICOM puts out a statement on Trinidad Reserve. Now, during the first Trump administration, through the Biden administration, Trinidad has been pursuing a license to, to waive the sanctions against Venezuela for Trinidad to develop the Dragon Bay gas reserves between Trinidad and Venezuela. It was supposed to be a joint undertaking because it is in the territorial space of both countries. A waiver was granted during the Biden administration. But the new Trump administration took away that waiver, and Trinidad has been pursuing that since the Trump administration has done that. We are now being told, and I'm giving this background to say some other things, we are now being told that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been granted a limited waiver. And this came after the Prime Minister of Trinidad spoke out in solidarity and support of the extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean. So you never see smoke without fire, but it is unprincipled and it is immoral. Under no circumstances, whether internationally, in the Caribbean regionally, or in any of the countries in the Caribbean, that we should sanction extrajudicial killings. The Caribbean has a shipwrighter agreement with the United States. And that shipwrighter agreement is not about war or narco-terrorism. It is to interdict and bring to justice drug traffickers in the Caribbean Sea. And we should not forget that shipwrighter agreement. It has worked time and again. We've seen reports of large amounts of drugs being captured in the Caribbean Sea. We know of many individuals being held and taken to trial, and depends on whose territorial waters they are found, they are handed over to that country for trial. So we should be very careful how we speak, because we may appear to be supporting extrajudicial killings, not to mention the imminent war which is on our doorstep right now.
Well, I'm sure that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago will say that she's not celebrating or not supporting extrajudicial killings. In terms of the definition of terrorism, it does appear, though, Ambassador Ward, that depending on who's the president of the United States, well, let me be more specific, Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I mean, when Joe Biden was the president of the United States, I'm looking here at a website for someone who is a Wyoming congresswoman, according to how the website is designed. And I see a name here, Harriet Hageman. I think that's how it's pronounced. The headline reads, labeling Republicans, Christian conservative groups as terrorists is appalling, in quotes, Hageman says. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. It appears as if sometimes the term terrorism can be politicized. Would I be correct in saying that? Well, hold that thought for a second if you wish to respond, because I think we're now upon a break, the 7:30 break. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us in the first watch, and we will have you both in the second watch. And Ambassador Ward, you can respond to the comments I just made. And of course, we want to have your thoughts as well, Pastor Edwards. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:30.
Done, triple grease cleaning power, it's foam, lasts longer. Done, triple grease cleaning power, you scrub less often. Done, triple grease cleaning power.
Find it at a great price in your favorite store or supermarket. Formula with 3 grease cleaning agents versus another dishwashing soap of similar price.
Praise Chapel Apostolic Ministries present the Glory to Glory concert on December 5th, 2025 at Lot 131 Catherine Mount, Montego Bay. Featuring Rhoda Isabella, international artist Lionel T, among other top local acts. Gates open at 6 p.m. For tickets, contact 876-952-3668 or 876-840-6704. Part proceeds for the Pre-Cam Kindergarten and Prep School.
Bashkogo's Fashion Gone Decor with the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. October 31st and November 1st. Get up to 50% off. New finds, lower prices, big savings across all Bashko locations. Fashion Gone Decor with Bashko. With the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. Shop, save, and earn. October 31st and November 1st. Follow Bashko on all socials at Bashko Jamaica. Bashko, where style meets savings.
As a contractor, I never work without a plan.
As an electrician, protection is always a priority.
If you're a small business owner or an independent contractor, there's a plan that gives you protection and coverage. Sagicor Pro Shield. Get up to $1 million critical illness coverage and cover up to 80% of your medical costs for as little as $15,510 every 3 months. Get the protection you need with Sagicor Pro Shield. Call 876-936-7784. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we take a look here at the Gleaner. We have among our lead stories, service over self. Jamaicans are being encouraged to place greater emphasis on service to country as a vital part of nation building. The call comes from Lloyd Carney, who was one of more than 140 Jamaicans honored yesterday during the annual National Awards, of course, National Heroes Day. Yes, so we have that from him, service over self. Another lead story, a little bit further afield, but touching and concerning our discussion in the Morning Watch today. Bahamians urged to avoid speedboats leaving Venezuela amid U.S. military action. Bahamians urged to avoid speedboats leaving Venezuela amid U.S. military action. We have in the Daily Observer today a headline here with a photograph of a young man, and he is receiving the support here of a young lady in the picture. The headline reads, Sir Gallant. 14-year-old Adrian Ellis gets National Award for saving schoolmate's life. Adrian Ellis gets a congratulatory hug from his Ascot High schoolmate, Roxanne Riley, after being presented with the badge of honor for gallantry during the ceremony of investiture and presentation of national honors and awards at King's House on Monday. We have another story referenced on the front page of the Daily Observer. Former Holiness Press Secretary Naomi Francis takes wings, and it reads at page 8, Naomi Francis takes wings. Former Holiness Press Secretary Now pulling strings at busy Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport. That story by Arthur Hall. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Of course, coming up next, we'll read feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts on the conflict now playing out in Caribbean waters? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses in our Facebook or YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Mysterious, magical, mesmerizing. Wouldn't you like to experience the natural beauty of the Northern Lights? You could be the lucky one if you use your cards right. Spend with your Sagicor Bank credit card from September 29 to November 13, 2025, and you could win an all-inclusive cruise vacation for two along the Norwegian coast to see the Northern Lights. Chase the Northern Lights with your Sagicor Bank credit card. The more you spend it, the closer you are to your dream adventure. Enjoy the best rewards ever. Conditions apply. Authorized by the Betting Gaming and Lotteries Commission.
Fresh and 24/7, you see. New down Intel, a softener with a scent for cozy life. New down Intel, fresh and 24/7 with a scent that lasts. New down Intel, find it in your favorite store.
Bashkogo's Fashion Gone Decor with the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. October 31st and November 1st, get up to 50% off. New finds, lower prices, big savings across all Bashko locations. Fashion Gone Decor with Bashko. With the Jamaica Observer Take Style Out. Shop, save, and earn. October 31st and November 1st. Follow Bashko on all socials at Bashko Jamaica. Bashko, where style meets savings.
We know you're making every dollar work harder, choosing carefully, buying what you need, and making it stretch as far as you can. That's why Grace is giving shoppers discounts on over 20 of your favorite Grace products when you cash out at participating supermarkets. It's our way of helping you sweeten moments together, share more meals, and take care of the people you love. Make a good move with 20% savings from Grace.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled two dreams with one Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Say so you can make the part, travel far, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Well, let's take a look to see what our friends in the social media land space have to say concerning the feedback question. And of course, our feedback question, what are your thoughts on the conflict now playing out in Caribbean waters, Jukal?
All right, so we have a response here from Cherry in Spanish Town. Cherry says, there's a lot happening in the Caribbean, and it makes one wonder, whatever one does or correspond with, or does it justify or be justified? We as the Caribbean and CARICOM need to unite with one voice and keep the peace. Needless, we will feel the pinch of the war around us. Yes.
Thank you, Jukal. Much. Thank you, sir, for reading that comment from her. Thank you for the comment. Keep the comments coming in. Yes. And we move right into the second watch. Again, we're looking at the same topic from the first watch, and we are grateful to have the same guests return. And of course, that topic is war in our backyard, justified or just to fire? And where is CARICOM? And of course, in looking at this topic, war is not just a headline anymore. Not just a headline anymore. It's getting closer to home. As conflicts flare in our region, the Caribbean can't help but ask, is this war justified or just another fire waiting to spread. And where is CARICOM in all of this? Again, Ambassador Curtis Ward, attorney at law, international consultant, ambassador, and permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations, retired, and Pastor Everell Edwards, pastor Church of the Open Bible, Twickenham Park. Ambassador Ward, just before the break, I had raised two things with you, and feel free to answer any way you wish to answer, sir. This is not a debate. You're free to make any comment in relation to what I had raised. Trinidad's Prime Minister, she probably would say that she's not supporting extrajudicial killings. That's what she probably say. And in terms of the word terrorist, is it so overused? Is it being politicized in the United States of America, depending who the president is? Well, now we hear the term narco-terrorism from the current U.S. administration. Former President Joe Biden had used the term in relation to, when I said the term, I mean terrorist, in relation to Republicans and Christian conservative groups. So is it that we are sort of diluting the name of the definition of the term terrorist because we might just be overusing it? Ambassador Ward?
That's a very important question. Certainly, it has been politicized in many cases. But we have to go back to what is considered terrorism. There is specific definition of terrorism in U.S. law. This is in the law. Now, a former FBI director in testimony before Congress said the greatest threat to U.S. national security is domestic terrorism. Now, let's be clear. Who is a terrorist? It is not determined by the color of your skin, your ethnicity, your religious background, your economic position, etc. Terrorism is the act and the method in which you carry it out, and for what reason. There must be a political reason for your act of terrorism. Political reason includes many things. But white violent extremists who happen to abuse the Christian religion fit squarely in the definition of terrorism under U.S. law. So let's not get carried away with the idea that the term is misused against white Christians. If that was the case, millions of Americans would be designated as terrorists. We are talking about a clearly defined group of white, conservative, fundamentalist Christians who carry out and proclaim, promote, and indoctrinate certain acts of terrorism defined under U.S. law. Now,
in terms of President Trump, if one takes a look at who Aragua is, or is said to be, it is said to be a Venezuelan gang that has expanded its activities into the United States of America on U.S. soil, leading to recent sanctions against its leaders. So on that basis too, the United States will say, well, you're saying that these white Christians in America, a specific group of them are domestic terrorists. President Trump will argue that, well, groups like Tren de Aragua may qualify to be described as terrorists because of their influence on U.S. soil. Ambassador, what are your thoughts?
I'm not talking about mere influence. I'm talking about actions.
Well, I was probably being very kind because they are saying that there are criminal activities taking place in the U.S.
Would you consider the criminal gangs in Jamaica as terrorists?
Well, I would yield to another person or individual at the moment to perhaps make that judgment.
No, you raise the issue
Yes.
and of a criminal gang, Trend Aragua, as well as 7 other drug trafficking gangs, who the United States for the first time have called them terrorists.
In other words, you're not seeing these groups that the U.S. administration describe as terrorists as satisfying the definition.
No, they do not. They are criminal gangs. They are transnational gangs engaged in drug trafficking. And we have laws that deal with drug trafficking and with gangs. The anti-immigrant program of the Trump administration has led to designation of gangs as terrorists. The most recent proclamation coming out of the White House, an executive order signed by the president, is calling Antifa a terrorist group. Now, first of all, Antifa is not a group. It's a philosophy. There's no organized group called Antifa. And secondly, what does Antifa mean? People hear the term Antifa and they don't even know what it means. It means anti-fascist.
Understood, sir. And the images that are seen, I don't want to get too much off topic, but the images of persons who are labeled or described as Antifa, you doubt those recordings or recorded videos? You doubt those reports? Because you say it's a philosophy, not an organized group. It could be disorganized to some extent, but you don't think
there's no organized group called Antifa. Okay. Antifa is a philosophy. It's an ideology of anti-fascist. That's what Antifa means.
So you are denying that there were any persons from Antifa doing certain acts of violence. That didn't happen? You're saying that never happened?
People who hold that philosophy,
yes,
could have been involved in acts of violence during demonstrations and so on. Yeah. I'm not denying that.
Oh, okay.
But that don't make them a terrorist. You understand me? And there's no organized group called Antifa. If you are anti-fascist in the United States and make those and rally against fascism, you're automatically classified as a member of Antifa.
Understood.
Now to get back to...
Yes, I want to get back to the Caribbean and Venezuela, because people will have different views from you on both Republicans and, what you call white, well, they never use the term white supremacists, but I think that's probably where you are going. But
sir, you cited an article of a congresswoman from Wyoming.
Yes, I did, yes.
And we have evidence, lots of evidence, lots of prosecution of white extremists, violent extremists.
No. I'm just saying that other people will have other views from yours. But in terms of Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, I'm sort of wanting to put to you, sir, or ask you or inquire of you, why is it that it appears, I'm not saying it is so, why does it appear that many Jamaicans do not seem to see the matter as being terribly urgent? Am I correct? Is it because it's maybe not happening in somewhere between Jamaica and Cuba? I suppose it was Cuba that the U.S. was currently having these strikes on, or in relation to, or in waters outside of Cuba. Would we here in Jamaica treat the matter a little bit more urgently? I get the feeling that we are not treating it as, we're seeing it as something over there, and we're not realizing that it is in fact in Caribbean waters. So we're not seeing it as something urgent to us. Ambassador Ward, your thoughts on that?
You mentioned earlier.
Yes.
A report from the Bahamas government.
Yes, yes. During the break, yes.
If we don't believe that military action anywhere in the Caribbean will affect Jamaica,
Yes.
the cruise lines, the yachts,
Continue, Ambassador Ward.
the yachts that berth in Port Antonio,
Yes.
the leisure craft across
Yes.
the Caribbean
Yes.
will begin to pull back.
Mm-hmm.
Cruise lines will have to take special care because if Venezuela lashes out in response, no cruise ship in the Caribbean Sea
Yes.
will be safe from a missile. So if we think in Jamaica it won't impact our country economically, it will also interrupt the international supply chain.
Yes.
Whether it is coming through the Panama Canal, coming from South America, or otherwise. A war where missiles are flying will have serious economic effect on tourism and trade. So we had better pay lots of attention. And I'm very pleased,
Yeah.
Mr. Edwards, not Mr. Edwards. I just
Reverend Edwards is speaking to.
I wasn't thinking of Reverend. I was thinking of you, sir.
Oh, Mr. Marshall, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Marshall. I'm very pleased to see that your radio station is raising this situation
Yes.
to the public because the public need to be aware. I don't see enough coming out of the media in Jamaica addressing the seriousness of what is happening and where it could lead in terms of the collateral damage to Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Ward. On behalf of the station here, Love 101 FM, we thank you for that observation, sir. We always aim to be on the cutting edge when it comes to issues that need to be discussed. Please continue, Ambassador Ward.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if you had the opportunity to see an article I had in the Gleaner right now, in the In Focus section, which was published on Sunday. But that is just touching the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And I did not get into the details of the economic implications because, as you know, when you write an article, some words are restricted.
Yes, it's editorialized, etc.
But
Yes.
this is something that is extremely serious for us. And our government will have to speak about the possible economic implications of this.
Yes.
And justify asking for restraint and dialogue and a peaceful settlement of the differences between Venezuela and the United States. And let's be also clear, there is no conflict at the moment between Venezuela and Guyana. There is a significant territorial dispute which could lead to conflict. And all these things may be thrown into the same basket once violence escalates between the United States and Venezuela.
Well, Pastor Edwards.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Is Jamaica speaking up? Is Jamaica staying silent? Is CARICOM? What tools should CARICOM use to protect regional interests? And might I even add, what should the individual countries in CARICOM do to protect their own regional assets? And does silence risk making the Caribbean irrelevant in global affairs? I know it's a loaded question, but we're dealing with a very serious matter here.
Yeah, but silence certainly is not an option. I think we need to be saying more, saying it loudly and saying it with a unified voice. What we are being subjected to is divide and rule, and being
Say that
divided.
slow. What we are being subjected to is divide and rule. Say
Yes,
what is the
because
reason why you
because
made
because because
such a
because
statement?
if I act purely in terms of my own self-interest, the wider good to the region gets lost. So I have an oil exploration possibility or development opportunity. And so I act purely in terms of voicing support for the action of the US because I want to advance my oil exploration project. I have tourism interests that benefit largely from the American market. So I keep quiet on the matter. But there are other things which are of equal value, if not immediately, in the long term. What do I mean? If we are able to maintain a particular level of peace and stability in the region, we become even more attractive to tourism interests. If we fail to protect the place, the region, the sea as an area for safe passage, then shipping is going to be affected. If shipping gets affected and the receipt of goods becomes more difficult, our prices are going to go up. So there are a lot of ways, many ways, in which it is necessary for us to talk with one voice and to speak the things which are supportive of our view of ourselves. This region of peace, this region of non-nuclear proliferation. We really even ought not to have nuclear material sailing through the Caribbean under without meeting certain conditions. We're talking about a nuclear submarine in the region. That is big news, and it goes back to if we keep quiet, the more we keep quiet, the more difficult it becomes for us, not just in
Pastor
short
Edwards,
term but
what would
long term.
happen? Well, let me ask another way. What would be your reaction to those who may say, we can always speak up, but practically speaking, will it really make a difference?
Well, we can't abandon moral suasion. We have fora that we can address the issue in, and the more we address it in a united regional voice, the better the prospects. We're
And
not going to be able, we're not
Pastor
going to be able,
Edwards,
we're not going
Pastor,
to be able to retaliate and send an intervention force to separate contending parties taking on the U.S. Army or Navy, if that is where you're going.
well, some would even argue that the U.S. may restrain itself somewhat because of the influence of China and Russia. I mean, your thoughts on that?
Well, again, we can't separate the idea that the Chinese influence in the Caribbean could be a very useful nudge for the Americans to become so involved.
I have to leave it there this morning. Never enough time on the morning watch. I want to thank you, Ambassador Ward and Pastor Edwards, for being with us. Very interesting conversation that we had this morning on this very earth-shattering topic. War is not something you laugh at. I want to thank you both, gentlemen, for being with us this morning. Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts.
You're most welcome.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, sirs. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And of course, take a look at our Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page. And of course, we are now on TikTok as well at Love 101 FM Jamaica. And of course, listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected to us. The family station, Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer Kathy Gale and to our guests. Join me again tomorrow. Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint will not be in this week. As I continue to look at the issues of the day, I am Stokeley Marshall, and I hand you back to Love in the Morning with Jakal.
Grace is giving shoppers discounts on over 20 of your favorite Grace products when you cash out at participating supermarkets. The time that Grace could move is
8 a.m. and you are now invited to listen to Forward in Faith